Guys, Bree started off as a dream for M80 and M80 fans, but unfortunately, once the sides swapped, it turned into a nightmare. They woke up, Blinn woke up, and take the first map 13-11 in this series. Henrik, this was the collegiate underdog. We're looking at the matchup of these teams. M80 versus Blinn, and they take them down on the very first map. That's crazy.
If there is a team to do this kind of thing to a team like M80, it is Blinn Esports. Their constant ability to turn the things that M80 did right around on the defense here on Breeze and just enact the exact same levels of punishment. Maybe not necessarily with the flourish that M80 got to show in the first half, but with the same level of magnitude. So much power behind these flanks, behind these off angles, behind this early denial that we saw so often, the first bloods coming through on these defensive ends main to make sure that M80 really only the reliable way through was mid, and we saw that neither team was really able to gain much off of that presence alone. It came a little bit harder for them, and Blinn was able to turn it into one too many retakes. Very, very well executed for them to just deny.
And to be fair, both teams struggled offensively. Like, Blinn only took 3 rounds, M80 took 2. And this is where the offense is. The IGL is the one that has to come through on the offense, and M80 are dealing with a new one. They can't just straight rely on mechanics, and you're seeing kind of how they're still getting used to each other and how they're executing those plans behind this new IGL, whether it is Xander or Ned or whoever. The timing was just a little bit off on moments like this, where it felt like M80 had the advantage, but the timing was off and allowed the defense of Blinn to, you know, kill one, then turn and deal with the other person swinging on them. I thought this was a very close match with both offenses having a lot of problems, but it's a bit surprising on M80's side how this struggled this much just with one new player.
I mean, I just want to be able to give it up for Blinn at this point too, because I was a little bit worried on the first half, not with the score line, because, you know, it's a 9-3 curse for a reason. We're so quick to forget that sometimes, but more so just they didn't really seem like they were shooting back. But once they really did, and they were taking the duels with M80, I think Blinn really got to show that the amount of reps that they've gotten underneath them in the collegiate scene with their runs, they play so much Valorant, and they're definitely capable of going out there and shooting. Definitely, when we're looking at the first maps, there's definitely a couple of things that could be fixed over on M80's end. I think this really could have been, at this point, Tenric, a map that could have gone in either way. But this is, again, a map that I think Blinn needed to win in the series for it to be competitive, considering it was their own map choice.
Absolutely, yeah. This was definitely a must-win map for Blinn. They had to show basically their whole playbook, and they did it very well. It's what you expect from a team like this. They will leave it all out on the field. Spaz makes a great MVP, but you really could call any of these guys. Even Teague was able to clamber back to a positive KD somehow after all of that. I mean, really, everybody on this team gave it 115%. Yet again, and they'll have to do it yet again on Icebox. This is still staunchly not over yet.
I thought Monty and BCJ were going to be the MVPs. No shade on Spaz. I mean, he had clutches and whatnot, but just like the value off of the Hunter's Fury on such a large map like this and how you play off of the information that people give you was really impressive out of both Monty and BCJ. But this is where the problem lies. Next map is Icebox, which is arguably M80's best map. They are undefeated on this. This is their most picked map, but there's some tricks up Blinn's sleeve in terms of compositions. Like, they like to play the harbor.
It'll be fun to see how Icebox is going to shake up between these two teams, considering the different approaches to the map. I mean, M80, the last time we've gotten to see them on it, they forgoed the duelist and instead going into a pretty aggressive double initiator with this Gecko and this KO, which I absolutely love. Whereas Blinn kicking it off on the defense, having these double walls, this Harbor and this Viper, something that some teams adopted and kind of left by the wayside. It definitely can be a little bit tricky to get through. And Tenric, when I'm looking at M80, I'm really looking for how they're able to be pushing through that over on their attack and how things are going to be merging together again when to address it, there is a newer player slotting in, and we don't necessarily know how many reps they've gotten to have with net ahead of the series.
Yeah, I think that Blinn getting the drop on the defense to start here as well, which is normally a side that might be a little weaker with their current Icebox comp. They're still more than willing to play into this. For M80, it is going to come down to the lack of an IGL, not meaning that they don't know how to execute. That's what we saw in Breeze when it came to their attack. It was somebody being unable to call that proper moment to let everything fly, to open up those doors, to let those windows get fully, completed. And on Icebox, where your angles are even more testy, they're even tougher to dominate in those pinpoint areas of a post plant. M80, they are going to need to lock in for this attack side, and honestly, they may need to play a little unconventional if they can't make that crucial call.
And it's going to be important to see how this Harbor plays for Blinn, because Viper got nerfed, so her util can't stay up as much. So you really have to have good comms with your secondary controller on how you're able to deny that vision. And I just like M80's comp more. You have great info gathering off of the Gecko and the KO, whether it's the knives or the flashes, and how they're entering to the site, and they can play off of those walls. But IGLing apparently is a problem on the M80 side with this new player in. So how are they able to talk between maps is going to be big for M80. They're undefeated on this map, maybe until now.
I don't know if IGLing is an issue when we're looking at M80, because we're still under the lack of knowledge of who necessarily is going to be calling for the roster. But I am intrigued with, on the back end of things, how it's kind of working out. Because when you do have someone else calling for the team, regardless of the fact Nitro stepping out of the roster, even if it's somebody that was already remaining on M80, that's still a different voice that's now leading the charge. So I don't know. I'm so intrigued if they can take this to get that little insight afterwards. But we have to get past this next map first before we even talk about that. Agent Select is ready. Map 2. Let's see if M80 can take this one.
Let's get into it. Series point for Blinn after their collegiate brethren fell and didn't have as much of a good day. At least they can take the helm. And of course, we have still the Gecko KO and the Harbor returning on Blinn's side with KJs across the board. And Blinn most recently played this against Fisher and won an OT 15-3, so they're very practiced on this.
Yeah, Blinn has been weighing their options between the Harbor and the Gecko on this Icebox for the past month or two now, and Harbor is unequivocally better. Despite the fact that the results are a little checkered on both sides, I think Motzi fits into this role of, again, denial so dang well. He and Spaz are lethal when it comes to shutting down a site in that pinpoint moment. And against a team like M80 that has these question marks above their heads, it might be the perfect time to be able to pull that kind of thing off. But when do you do it? How far up do you decide to pull that trigger? Do you let all this controller util fly early on so that you take the fight early and maybe let M80 kind of scrape themselves up and fight with disadvantages on site? Or do you play for the long game again? Do you give these sites over, play for the tough doorways, play for the flanks that we saw occasionally on a site like Breeze? And do you hope that your post-plant game is as strong as the comp would like it to be?
It's tough. I mean, there's two different plant options of letting Wingman walk up and do it all and play behind the Viper wall or really off of the flashes, and then on the other side the Harbor with the Cove protects the planter but still takes one person out of the picture if there is a contest for that plant. Meanwhile, M80 are going to get cut off from mid. They're going to decide to still go through this despite even the slight slow. Mikey in this kitchen hallway spots at least two heads. You don't want that smoke.
Yeah, absolutely do not take that. Handing tube over until Mike finds a much safer angle, one that'll shut down BCJ instantaneously. Now M80, once again, questioning themselves, but that's because they have that presence somewhere else. This time it's B main. They'll open yellow up, and M80 will be able to complete upon B site as all the other attention driven over to where this spike is laying down over in mid. And now here comes that flank. Spaz able to cut off the two that invaded, and Okeanos to open up the line into B site, where now only Xander sits as the remaining defender, or I guess attacker here for M80, but enough shutdowns get the job done here for the opening round.
Just not a good plan B from M80, just going through kitchen. You really put a lot of dependence on that Gecko flash, hoping to get that ping on the Mikey, and then losing that. Then M80 got flanked, and really beautiful pistol round out of Blinn. and even still reacting well when they had the harbor wall go up and you thought M80 weren't gonna dare to traverse through mid and still did so. Mikey didn't panic under that pressure.
He never does. He is always willing to take the first fight, but mark his words, it will not be the last he takes in the round. Just great safe play, and it appears that's how Blin's gonna operate. Let M80 take the unnecessary space as long as you maintain advantage when it matters, which is as long as it's before the spike goes boom. You should be set. Spaz taking a huge advantage to this A push early on, looking for the one-way. Koala to fire into the fray, coax him out.
Yeah, a lot of classics on M80's side too, to just stack on as much util as possible to weaken this A site. Teague is flash and hoping to spray through M80 with the better weaponry, but it's an advantage for M80 still. Now getting upgrades too, getting the SMG. You heard Koala on the rope and Mikey couldn't punish in that case. M80 have the plant. They've already given up some space to just play sightlines. And Blin have to cross through smokes, and it's not been easy. Blin getting sightlines. They have Okeanos too with the Outlaw above them. M80 have Koala Noob with the backstab, and he gets to climb above, make sure nobody's on the spike. Mikey's getting decayed too, so he can't even stay on the spike if he wanted to. Hoping to keep this. Okay. Not a bad kill, but an M80 anti-eco to convert.
It's a great punishment coming from M80. Blin not wanting to play the rafters, not wanting to play for that post plane, instead the back site. Getting just fully collapsed on. Huge trades on top of that paranoia that M80's able to grab guns off of and turn into a very important round. Great start, great recovery off of that tough pistol that M80 will now look to take into a thriving gun advantage, as well as an ult bank that's already clamoring towards the top. Nismo halfway towards that null command. Very, very crucial.
The power of M80's utility, investing into that. Koala Noob and friends have some close defenders. They were not expecting to be here, and Okeanos, I think, messed up his dash, but either way, couldn't get around the corner into safety, leaving M80 with the man advantage to get into B. Mikey hoping to contest this on the other side of this wall. Wow, managed to pick off Koala Noob too. Now summoning Teague's attention with the Sheriff off in the distance. Will be playing from Snowman. Wingman allows M80 to plant at a safe distance too. As soon as the smoke drops, M80 don't even want to lock eyes with them to give up their safe position. It's M80 that have to close the gap, and they're playing all stacked together. The shock bolt, too, from Teague, tries to draw at M80 from that yellow box position, and Nismo didn't get the backup of BCJ, but at least he'll convert too. And Teague, with the Sheriff, hasn't even just now gets the weapon upgrade. We'll tap the spike to reveal he's close, but there's crossfire from Net and BCJ as M80 get another round.
Such a huge hold from BCJ to continue playing for that. Smart of Blin to wait for Spaz to get there, especially since it was a glorified 2v2 anyway. He still only had two coming from the other side too, so able to play kind of safe against the clock here. But man, very important kills in the later stage of the round that Blin just cannot trade off of well enough. But that's with the gun diff. That's with basically nothing. They are far more confident this round, not necessarily in practice, although Monsi is once again going to step up early, potentially get punished, but instead it's Okeanos who's covering the tracks and letting Koala Noob hear it.
Oh, M80 losing. Koala Noob isn't great. You don't have that paranoia, teleport, one less smoke. M80 still try to quietly make their way in and see if they can access Okeanos. So leave someone behind too to force Okeanos back. You can just readjust at the top of the stairs. Thrash from BCJ to chase down where Okeanos is, but really just using it to clear the site rather than actually go for a detain. Maybe allowing BCJ to pick it back up and go for detain round two. Nonetheless, M80 plant, and Xander, he saw Mikey there, right guys, right? But
he knows he's gotta stick around at this stage knowing that they were there, so He just wants everyone else on M80 to play off of him. The toxic screen's gonna completely isolate, and a snake bite too. That's just bullying. He'll finally get tossed away.
Look at all these smokes from Blinn too. M80 can't even see their own spike anymore, so it's maybe causing some panic. Blinn have tapped the spike. M80 forced to engage, and this Harbor's gonna stick it, and it's all up to Xander, who can't do anything but just watch the round slip by.
Utter dominance in that post-plant fight. Very well executed by Blinn. Everybody at M80 looking the wrong way. Too many options, and Blinn does not have that problem staring into that one point of entry. Great longevity play for M80 though. Able to play from spawn. They're able to get a pretty clean plant. But you just can't complete when a fight is lost that way. Gotta come stronger than that if Blinn is gonna fire on all cylinders for that post plant.
Yeah, just M80 can't play too far away from the spike, or else they're just gonna get walled off, and it becomes more difficult for M80 to know how to approach that situation. But they've left the spike behind. They're gonna try and sell a B fake while Blinn playing yellow box. They get flashed. Now with the the Harbor wall up, M80 lost someone on entry, and that's one of your main flashes. Now BCJ is the only one who could really obscure vision, minus the paranoia, and Nets at least got first blood with 5 HP. It's not a comfortable ace I hit, as M80 still decide what's good, and with dislodging at least one defender from the yellow box with the snake bite there, Okeanos is gonna look like he isn't still around, and he's even gonna take the vulnerable damage to see if he can get a backstab on M80, who just didn't clear out this yellow box at all. Okeanos is gonna hear this plan and get a backstab on Koala Noob.
Dude.
M80 fumbled.
Oh, but Xander's able to frag back onto Okeanos. That yellow line is cleared up again, so Mikey's gonna have to be the one that launches back. Will just in time, and it leaves only Net on this post plant. The lockdown to twist the knife even deeper.
He's 5 HP, bro.
Really much you can do here. He's gonna throw down that nano swarm just so you can't play for the immediate defuse, except that's exactly what Mike is gonna do. He's just gonna hold it while the noisemaker went off on the lockdown, and unable to really do anything on top of that. Net's just gonna hold on to this gun, and Blinn is gonna hold on to the lead for now. But again, it comes at the hands of it's a beyond scrappy. I mean, you had a 1v1 going on at A site until the spike went down. You had yellow completely unchecked after Okeanos peeked from it and grabbed 2 for free. It is a weird match we're playing right now, Jen.
It's so weird. Just, they thought with the snake bite, Okeanos would have left or dashed out.
Yeah, of course, because it covers the entirety of yellow.
Yeah, as you would. Okeanos could have even done more damage than that and ended the round earlier, but M80 are going to try their hand at A, starting with that Gecko flash. BCJ not pinging anyone. Does Blinn have a Teague set up with full util too if he wanted to recon at the back? That's how they were able to first blood Koala Noob last round. But now with Teague suppressed, his position is revealed, and now he's flashed. He can't do much, but can M80 get sidelines? They don't check the obvious things. M80 will still have a dance-off and go toe for toe, but it's Blinn with the last laugh and a 3v2 with Spike down. Okay, good timing on getting into cover with the reload, but what a horrible position for M80 to be in with 2 smokes still up.
Oh, and Spaz hasn't let himself be known yet. This is evil if your timing's right. Koala Noob, immediately after the TP for info, will now let the spike drop and the snake bite to wall away. Net will have to isolate these fights to find any semblance of success. But Blinn, they have a manufactured high-low on the door to screen, and Spaz is still sitting pretty open spawn. Such a well-orchestrated round. As long as BCJ doesn't turn around when he sees that the Dizzy splatted behind the pedestal. But that's all. That's all Blinn needs, is one crucial mistake. That just opens up a round again and again and again.
How was Teague not spotted, though? I thought for sure he got...
He did. He got hit by the Dizzy, and they just didn't look up at him.
Yeah. I mean, this is not the first time M80 haven't checked the kind of obvious things. It's like they're all listening to the game plan and you miss like the obvious things, like the fundamentals of it's not the first time Blinn have had someone on the high ground. Usually it's been Okeanos at the back of screens, but I think Blinn are more and more confident as they got first blood on Kuala last round, or not, well, not this round, but the round before. Now they're kind of taking more forward positions, and M80, there's a lot to look at the A site more than B, I feel like. So I don't blame M80 for missing one, corner out of the thousands that are on the site.
Of course. Yeah, there's a big laundry list when it comes to taking over A site, and with the potential to have 2 controllers worth of util there, honestly, it might be a waste of time to be as delicate as M80 would like to be. Sometimes you just gotta roll those dice. But it leads to this. Quite the pitiful buy for round number 7. Koala Noob on that Outlaw, though. Gonna try and slice this board some way. It's not gonna be early, though. They've really got to play the long game this round, and it's gonna be painful.
The op by 2 from Blinn. Anna Hunter's Fury. Viper's Pit just got grabbed there by Spaz with the orb. Either way, M80 facing down a lot of ultimates and a 2K, 3K from Muncie. M80 cut down to the scraps of just Xander and Net. So Guardian, sure, but you were hoping Blinn were gonna swing for more for M80 to have a response, but they're just coughing this whole round up.
Every step of the way is a step that can lead to disaster when you don't have anything to snowball off of, and Blinn, again, riding the high of a round that they have all the control they could ask for over. This positioning is trivial. Oh, the recon bolt catching Xander as well. 45 seconds to stick around. You could get a spike down on A site if you really want to, but there is no fight to be developed unless you just, again, wait. And Xander does not have much to go off of. This orb, basically your only window, and it's gonna fade before you can start a fight again. Net has some stuff to launch up for post plant, but you just can't guarantee a thing here. You've just got to go for it, and they will. Xander to plan on default, Shock Bolt doing some chip damage, but he will get away with it.
And no Viper's Pit, especially after Xander upgraded his weapon. There's still an Outlaw, but Net hasn't wanted to pick that up. Bladestorm pop by Okeanos and drops the op at the worst spot. Blinn, their hand is being forced, and so is this Viper's Pit. Xander uses it, not able to cover Net in time. Spike being tapped, and it's Blinn that have already advanced into the Viper's Pit. And it's an L all around for M80 with panic decisions and a better retake out of Blinn.
That's just so tragic. You can see the gears turning for Xander to throw that Viper's Pit down, but Net just doesn't know what to do immediately after it goes up. Just the cover's so uncertain, and getting killed at that crucial point where Blinn sees the window at the same time that thing is procced. But I mean, obviously the highlight of that's got to be Monsi getting that 3K early on, just shutting down the opportunity before it can really manifest, guaranteeing this round for Blinn, guaranteeing the streak continuing, guaranteeing the bank looking really good. And now Spaz has a Viper's Pit himself. Question is, how do you use it? Do you use it as aggressively as it appears he's sitting, or do you use it for that retake that it seems like M80 wanted to find the pocket for in the previous round?
This is the best retake ult in the game. I feel like Reckoning for Muncie. They can just lay back and chill, but even with that in mind, Blinn have 3 stacked at A and the KJ util with a turret left in mid. Blinn have their bases covered, and Okeanos puts Koala Noob underground. Not the first time he's been first blooded. This is a 2K waiting to happen, but the timing didn't favor Teague as he got into cover in time. M80 have their plan discovered of wanting to go A, and Blinn are going to keep this forward positioning, and they have the owl drone that detected M80 as the Reckoning was almost pulled there from Muncie. Either way, Blinn are chilling.
Jumping at the opportunity yet again. It's going to be Okeanos. Pressured, but not stunted. Wow. Let's see if we can handle another one. I mean, yeah, you have the time here, maybe. Oh, the flash thrown in. Xander, the invasion, but Muncie plays Puppy Guard. It is yet again too little too late. When one plays Oak, one forgets there are 4 teammates that surround him. And that is done and dusted for M80 net. Not even the gun save guaranteed with 10 seconds on the clock. Good for 1, but it does not matter at this stage in the game. 6-2 Blin.
But why did Xander push past the Viper's wall when he had room to plant before it and didn't go with anyone else, and they didn't clear the top of sight? Like, it was... Maybe I have more questions than answers.
Gotta kill the Jet with an op. That's how, you know, I'm WP brain towards the Jet with an operator, unfortunately. Which, look, I get it. Like, you have the flash nade. You have presence A-site. You would think that you have enough time to get there. But Monsi has already made his way back upstairs, which again, he's like barely been playing so far. He was playing even closer than Spaz was before. But now there's this decided double controller holding up B-site, making it just so indecisive, even if you just W key down lane. So tough, and I mean, just every question thrown back up to every single angle. Too much for M80 to do here, and just not enough to do it, evidently. Okeanos staring into another brazen push. BCJ leading the charge, no guaranteed flash, and no guaranteed lockdown. Just a guaranteed body for this Jet yet again.
You thought with the lockdown that Blin would have left already, and how many times have Blin had either first blood, or they've gone to shoot M80 when they're not even looking? Now, the lockdown is dissipated, and Teak helps me take the start with the Hunter's Fury, and there's a well-timed flash from M80 to help Nismo get to give M80 a fighting chance. But Okeanos will get a better weapon to brawl at this range. And that's it, Kowaladu with the crossfire as Blin walked in. M80 read it perfectly.
A much more close quarters post-plant setup, not necessarily playing from that spawn where Blin can set up and take the fight. Far scrappier on the other end, and M80 have finally found that formula. It's not consistent, it's not completely set in stone, but it is around, it is something to jump off of. Couple ults in the bank here, guns back on par with Blin. You gotta make that call at the right moment. That's what it's come down to in reality for M80. Their aim will never stop being better. But Blin, they still have a lot to say. Monsi gonna duck out of this Thresh, and how much of a support squad do you have this time around? Okeanos having to fire through the screen to make sure Monsi stays safe, and he will just long enough.
Surprised the Viper's wall didn't come down, because that's Sanders. Especially when that detain was there.
Right.
Either way, Okeanos would have saved him with the op. Meanwhile, the plant has happened, and Blin still have all 5 up, including an op at the back. And as soon as this Omen smoke from Koala Noob drops, this could be the sightlines Okeanos needs, and he got detained from BCJ, I believe. Round 2 of that ult being used, finding tremendous value. And Blin have 2 left, and with the KG Yuta, with the smokes, and with Mike, he had a nice turn on the yellow box, but he got flashed. And M80 are really starting to pick things up.
There's just so much to throw on that post plane once you get the spike down. B default is so good when it works out, but that's the risk reward of foregoing the Sage for the Gecko with this classic Icebox comp that M80 is running. And BCJ is finally finding the right way to cycle it. The mosh pit finally playing the role that it's needed to as an additional service to the post plant that M80 has tried to propel itself off of this entire game so far. It finally comes together, and now on each side too. Blin definitely gonna have to force that timeout. They need an answer, but they also they just need to position themselves properly. Again, that's how they were able to maintain that early denial that kept M80 from finding these rounds out of thin air. And it maintained that safety for Blin to be able to find those first bloods in the meantime, too. But neither of those have been guaranteed these past 2 rounds. M80 locking in the bitter 11th hour here to try to make this series as competitive as can be.
2 rounds left in the half with the Blin timeout. And M80, like you said, just had great timing on the visual denial once they got the plant down and sending Wingman forward to have all of M80 there to scrap against Blin's setup of usually an op at the back or a rifle at the top of the site. I think M80 have approached the B site a lot better. Maybe we forget about A, and actually even then they were successful on the A site previously.
Yeah.
It was just about well-timed flashes from Nismo. So M80, they sent one person mid last time, and that's how they got first blood. And Blinn have gotten a lot of those first bloods, by the way, but at least M80 got an orb out of it.
This is crazy from Blinn. Huge stack up front. That's just waiting for Net to punish as M80 takes all this free space. That would normally have some, at least, noise made around it, but it's not the case. Finally cleared away, so that's done and dusted. Now you circle back to the Behold Through Kitchen, which is far weaker.
Right there.
Mikey down. So where do you travel to? You go all the way to CT, where Monsi is able to come from freely behind this smoke. BCJ turning around just in time!
Oh, the timing is everything. That would have been such a huge backstab from Monsi and M80. I've dealt also with that Viper's, or at least Spaz at the Viper's pit, and that's no longer in effect. So M80 have less to worry about. Gecko Flash! And the team play from M80. They've talked to each other. They're recomposed. But they're in a 2v2 with the HP advantage to Blinn. Spike is planted, though, and there's no one home. Okeanos won't have the advantage of having double smokers with them this time. It's just Teague with the recon that pings no one. Okeanos has smokes of his own. The spike being tapped, and Okeanos just goes in on his own with no clue what to do. Teague got tagged too by the Gecko Molly. And Koala Noob's on the high ground in cover. And what a shot from Teague! Of course, Koala Noob was low. Shock Bolt to get BCJ low. The smoke obscuring, forcing BCJ to take the fight, and he wins it.
Such a tough hold. And that's asking so much of Okeanos that round, but unable to land such an important amount of shots to guarantee the safety that normally would have befallen Blinn on that retake. And it's tough because M80, their execution hasn't necessarily been too different. It's just been more fluid. They've been able to turn this initial fight to planting position, to post-plant position. They've been able to make it one long-winded effort rather than a step-by-step process that Blinn has been able to throw a wedge into, and it's leading to a lot more development in the early stages of these rounds. Now M80, one orb away from the Thresh, having the TP. They have all the space they need, and they haven't even taken it yet.
M80 head towards B, and what an opening pick. Spaz is gone, and one less smoke to worry about. But Muncie's all the way at the ace site with that Reckoning, and M80 have to kind of wait out the KJ util, the Thrash from BCJ to clear all the way through Snowman. So this is a comfortable plant. You just have to worry about the mid-cut, and that's where the problems arise. Because now these B rotators have come in, and M80 took too long to plant and really set up a good post-plant.
Spread far too thin. After that Thresh went, Xander really wanted to chase it down, make sure the BCJ could grab it back, or at least grab the rest of the site back, but it's so much better to just continue playing from here, where Net's able to find one more, but it's a 1v2 that BCJ does have the freedom for one, but Teague just holds down that spike and can grab a 7th for Blinn, and just a crucial moment where M80 overextends a little too much. That TP from Koala Noob was a little rough as well. And Blinn will be able to take the half there.
Often. Yeah. I was like, wait, did they defuse it? I'm so confused, but...
that was tumultuous.
It was a defuse. Yeah. And now we go to pistols, where last time that was won by Blinn. But it was the anti-go and the bonus that M80 actually took. So it's been, like you said, very much contested map 2 compared to kind of how the last one started. But with M80, it's been the team play. We talked about it's the timing. They have fantastic ideas. It's the same game plan. But the timing and how they play off of BCJ is what's important for M80. But he's playing pretty far back. It's Nismo's flash and how he's going to swing onto 2 people here. And at least he got one, but the information that Blinn committed a few more members mid gives an idea that M80... How do they defend this B site? Paranoia comes out, doesn't hit Blinn, and they're cut off from even planting. And they're still trying to set up their harbor walls, and swinging out a yellow box favors Blinn. The spike's still not planted.
And Blinn did a great job of sowing chaos in there after recognizing that there was at least 3 from M80 on this B site just ready to intercept. They back out, They util dump just a little bit to make it look like they're panicking, and then they reset outside of yellow. So, not Monsi, excuse me. Or yes, it is Monsi, actually. Is able to farm out that gorgeous long shot. And now the toxic screen, the full reset. M80 is too uncertain, and so far less presence initially, but they'll come back as the spike is tapped. Okeanos trying to take the fight. Can't guarantee the kills, but there's a lot of support. That lets Okeanos reload, reset, grab one more kill, and force Net into the 1v2. Got very close to winning these before, and Spaz is quite low as well, so there'll be that initial extension. Crazy timing that Net somehow catches a glimpse of, but it's not enough. Spaz wins the timing of the shots, and it's 8-5 Blinn.
And especially with the right click of the Classic, just need to kind of sneeze on Net. I think he had, what, 40 HP left or something, so Pistol, yet again, goes the way of Blinn, allowing them to get some pretty serious upgrades, especially the Vandal from Okeanos. Wonder where that brings them, and it's M80 getting more confident across these harbor walls too, which the timing was just like unfortunate there. And with the slow,
such a great block by Monsi to make sure nobody from M80 could be effective, because they were all so ready there on B site. Such a great stopper.
Here.
Blinn have made enough noise. That darn Sova, Teague, trying to get into position to throw the recon, maybe at the back of yellow box, and Paranoia ready for Koala Noob. He has a friend around, and Xander, maybe the timing was off of the Paranoia, I don't know, but Blinn look really unaffected, especially with the 3K they just got. Now the B site is easily plantable, and Net and Nismo are left behind. At least there's 2 flashes left, but not the best weapons to go up against, or that they have to go up. Nismo on the top has already been discovered too, and Net tries to distract, allow him to get back into kitchen. No, that's the 3rd kill now for Monsi.
Tear it down.
Really solid pace by Blinn, not letting any of those early cutoffs affect them on a very routine push. So far, so gorgeous for Blinn. 4 rounds away from one hell of a potential upset. Again, Net being slotted in does not a throwing team make, and rest assured, M80 is not throwing. This Blinn squad looks like they've got every player keyed up to do exactly as much as they need to do. Very responsible players so far. Everybody getting theirs, everybody launching the util when they need to. Great knowledge of the game from these players so far, it's showing.
Yeah, and just a reminder, M80 haven't lost to any other team other than Turtle Troop and Oxygen. So this would be an insane upset. Yeah, exactly. They're undefeated like 5-0 or something on this map. But this is the difference that kind of restructuring your team does with a new IGL slotted in.
Take flight.
Blinn have left the spike behind. Let's see if they can spot Xander playing that close, sure, but where is the rest of M80?
Their smoke launched up to deter the B push that Blinn always wants to maintain at least some pressure for, especially if this kitchen pinch goes successfully. They just want an opening pick so bad. Koala Noob forcing them to chomp a bit, taking a good amount of chip off of it. Now back away, let this A presence take over, where M80 very unsure of how much they need to lean into this screen hold. They'll completely vacate A site.
Blinn are spotting M80 a lot, but not killing them. They got really close to Koala Noob with the mid-exchange. You got Reckoning from Monsi to take over the A site. Of course, the High Tide covering the back and including the high ground. And M80 can try to wait this out. They won't have ults to really contest. Just snake bites, paranoias, flashes from BCJ, one from Nismo. And Muncie will be at the corner. Okeanos will focus on screens. There's a paranoia. Okeanos throws a smoke up, and holy cow, Muncie explodes M80 on entry.
Conflict is not my first choice.
Taking hold it down in more ways than one. It is once again Monsi as that frontline manager. Wow! Able to just barely dodge that paranoia. Very tough positioning for Koala Noob. And the rest of Blinn doesn't have to ask any more questions. The two controllers have this done and dusted. And a huge opportunity careening past M80. Potential 11-5 on the board if all goes smoothly here.
Poison orb emitting.
Man. Couple more rounds for Blinn. Economy in shambles for M80.
Poison's off.
And now with that in mind, Net could push up here. Usually you'd like a flash or something, but Net can at least listen in. M80 gonna gamble to push aggressively into Blinn. But they're just so good. 2 for Okeanos, ready to set up his planner for success. Muncie will be missing, so no Cove, no help. Just one smoke left, but a dream to beat one of the best teams and challengers of M80. But hey, Koala Noob won't go down without a fight. 1v3, only has a sheriff, and great headshot onto Teague. He's gonna smoke off the spike and see if he can make Blinn hesitate, take an angle around. And now you don't know who's that yellow box. At least that helps.
Leaving? Are they just fully leaving? Oh my god, they're fully leaving. They're going to A side. Wow. Great window found by Blinn to sneak past and reset for the A site fight, which the KJ and Viper feel mighty comfortable with. Look at how far out Mikey's already extended. Just doesn't want Koala to have a second here. And him just goose-stepping over that snake bite led to him being only at half health going into this fight. This is so impossible. I say about the M80 player knowing exactly what I'm doing.
Hey, Koala Noob is their main duelist, so if there's somebody that can frag, it's this guy. And he got to upgrade his weapon too, but now with the KJ util, he'll try to smoke it, draw out the fire. He knows that that Viper is below him. Koala Noob gets into shelter, but he's barely gonna have time to defuse this. All Mikey has to do is, hit the spike. And that's Blinn going up to 11.
Another massive round that M80 again showed prowess in to be able to clamber back. But at the end of the day, Blinn, they just have enough to skate by, and that has been the tale of the tape for so much of this. And look, it is not helpful to any of us here in the green room that Net is currently at the bottom of the leaderboard, because his impact is not destroying this team. This is not a washed M80 squad. This is not Net this is not like tier 1 player so washed he's never gonna do anything in this town again. That's not what this is. This is an M80 team whose timing is stunted because their IGL is gone. Their timing is a little bit tougher because you have a Blinn squad that is so aggressive when they get to choose to be. And of course, having the Harbor Viper is so hard to just peek into, especially when you're Net trying to play that backline, trying to mitigate any lurkers like Mikey, who has just been so annoying from this spawn, has also been. A lot on your plate if you're M80. An understandable deficit once again here in map 2. 2 rounds out from losing this, though? That's a little too real for these guys at this point.
I don't blame Net for this situation. I mean, IGL, you're focused on where everybody is, what's going on, what are we tracking, what are we doing, and then he's a KJ. It's not like you have the best offensive util anyway. This is square one for M80, and this is definitely a humbling experience. Now, Blinn can use the Harbor util to get in, and as Okeanos was dashing or something, he gets picked. BCJ standing and delivering with now 3 from M80 holding yellow box, and post timeout, they've kind of reorganized their defense, and it paid off for now.
Oh, and their Kindle subscription has expired because they're about to do some rereading. Spaz's position on this rotation outside of Okeanos' first blood has been sniffed out. Like bloodhounds, M80 make this a 5v3 with their hands tied behind their backs. And that's the type of respect you expect from M80. Immediate punish on top of the push that was working, and then immediate rotation back to where you know you might have missed a spot. Perfect execution that leads to Blinn really stuck with their pants down. I mean, honestly, saving is a viable option here, but you know they're not going to do that.
3 suppressed.
All right, M80 know where they are. Plus, M80 haven't won a defensive round yet. And I think this may just be the first one, and a blind hits Mikey and flashes from both Nismo and BCJ, and Mikey can't do much more. So M80 will get their first defensive round going, but halfway from getting even close to Blinn.
Yeah, still a lot of work to do. And that is once again at the hands of an early collapse, something that Blinn were just leaning into just about every round on Breeze defense and happily taking advantage of. On Icebox, you don't necessarily get to do that every time. And M80, like the previous round, they will have to act upon the advantage that they receive. And they can't read their way through that every time. They can't just post 3 up on B main and win every fight. That's not going to work. You've got to reassess. You've got to manage your resources in a completely new way for this Blinn squad that has to assess their pace. Look how far back Teague is still holding on spawn. There is no decision being completely made by these Bucks just yet. But they still really want B main. It looks like M80 would love it to be B main because the Thrash is going to get tossed. Fish food is one. Xander trying to nosh on more than just the detained in Spaz, but actually a little of crossfire met to make it a 3v3 even Steven, as M80 once again have to check for mid now that their homework was done in B main.
At least the silver lining is that Blinn isn't allowing BCJ to go and recollect the Thrash. I was wondering if he was going to pop that, and even then it was still a pretty equal exchange from the Thrash. They had huge advantage, and the timing of the swing from M80. Blinn have the spike left behind, and they're going to try and sell that they're going to A with all this silence, and seeing if Mikey, looking at mid, could catch M80 crossing from B to A if they were to sniff out that fake. But Blinn recollect themselves, and the spike wait for the wall from Spaz to come up, and if they get this plan off, this Viper's Pit is everything for Spaz.
Very good of BCJ and Nismo to not rotate. A very small window that it takes both Cloudbursts to manage, I believe. No, Okeanos isn't even going to be able to use that second one. And that comes down to a lot of respect paid towards Net, who is finally coming back from this A-site hold. Spaz gonna hear that robot tapped. Hear it again. Net playing for the 1v2 and will just barely succeed in getting it. Toxic screen. Timing is brutal. Now the Viper's Pit has to be even better. Net's just gonna sit on top of this spike. The spray's not gonna work except the other way. And M80 make it 7.
That was some cooking for sure with that Viper's Pit. I was wondering why it didn't come out earlier. I wonder if the null command kind of prevented that and then tried to use the Viper's Pit, speaking of Spaz, to make it look like he was in it and get above it to see if he can catch M80 running into it, thinking they had the number advantage. They're going to try and go kill Spaz 2v1 in the pit, and Spaz overcooked, unfortunately, and that actually allowed M80 to have shelter to defuse, if anything. So, unfortunately, not having that pit come out earlier really hit Blinn's chances. They have such an ult advantage, too, so 2 rounds away for Blinn to convert the map and the series.
Very quick turnaround, it's what we expect. And now Koala sitting on that operator. Ready for somebody like Mikey to check out this T entry again. Harbor ult into Viper ult. This is going to be very curious to see how far Blinn tries to go, but they will indeed invade. Monsi is a little bit on an island right now, has to come back to the rest of the squad. Maybe a little too late. Okeanos attempting to extend, will at least trade it back, but it's tough for Blinn.
This is so chaotic. Fighting through the reckoning. M80 surely made a choice, but as the smoke dissipates, M80! Net! With 3, catching them in the trap. And it's M80 somehow getting the round. Koala, new cute jump there.
Oh, that was silly. That was a great round from M80. That was very fun. My goodness, Net. The one opening you need. And again, it comes from that forced hesitation onto Blinn. I mean, your Reckoning's already retired, so all you can really do is play forward, but you don't have any entry now that Okeanos is already fully committed. A split team collapsed on by the newcomer, who has now reached double digits on the kill feed. M80 3 rounds down.
Placing alarm bot.
M80 3 rounds in a row post timeout.
Poison's off.
Whatever was wrong, they look like they fixed it. And this hip looking injured after that first blood from Koala Doob. all people too of the op. Wishes he was the Jet in this case, but he's gonna hold down mid with it. Blinn have already used their harbor wall to block off back of screens. And remember, this is where they put Monsi in that corner, who got like a 4K as M80 tried to retake. And he's in a similar position. And as that wall dissipates, Okeanos is throwing butter knives at net. And the lockdown is going to flush out Blinn. A lot of good space earned from M80 for free. Going to be able to get the spike down to half. Not going to stick it as Blinn will scrap through it. A lot of smokes in the way. M80 split from each other, but it's net that thrives.
There's just no way to fully lock this team out. And credit where credit is due. Like, there's a lockdown to retake. It's really tough, but so much respect from Blinn. A lot of discipline. Okeanos, very conservative with the util for that push. Making sure that the same mistake is not made, even in such a scrappy fight. With the help of that KJ ult. Granted, now gone. Blinn finally gonna time out for the reset. A good call, in my opinion, at this stage, now that M80 might be out of their full cycle of tools that they can use to really put a full stop on this Blinn attack. But there has not been a lot of life outside of this, outside of these main pushes since M80 really woke up on that first round that they took.
This is now 4 rounds in a row for M80, a much needed timeout call. I'm wondering where the economy is for Blinn, and they just need 2 rounds, but tripping up at the finish line is a common thing. You get a little too comfortable, and when Blinn had their walls up, they were comfortable thinking M80 would never cross here, right? But as soon as those walls come up, that's when M80, especially Net, has gotten now quite a few multi-kills on the A site. Just having to scrap through the smoke, and M80 remaining composed in these moments where it's frag out or shut up. And M80, those mechanics that they're known for are finally coming true.
It's the good ending to what you kind of have to do when something like this occurs, when you have such a sudden roster change with such a sudden superstar. You trade off the new guy. And Net's been happy to take that burden, but has been more than happy to turn it into something beautiful, which is some of the multi-kills we've seen in these previous rounds. Blinn, yet again, will set their sights on B main to start things out, and not nearly as heavy of a presence in the immediate vicinity, but M80, they are so rotation-bound, it's insane. Look at how far spread this KJ util is.
Yeah, and Xander's not going to have any help, or sometimes BCJ has been around to use Thrash or to use a Flash. There's nothing to help Xander get trades if Blinn decided to just dump util into Xander. But Blinn just wanted the orb, I guess.
I dig it.
Poison orb emitting.
You still got 45 on the clock.
I have the spike.
And that
Poison's
orb to raise even more questions as to your presence. Oh, now how much noise is Mikey gonna make here? You have Monsi with you, so you're gonna throw a little bit in here. How much does M80 take the bait on this connection? Ooh, it's a big one.
30 seconds.
That is a big bait. Swallowed whole by M80. B-site's open for the taking, baby.
That's free for sure. No one gonna be home. BCJ is racing back. There is no spike at A, and it's a plant for Blinn. But look at this mid push from Net too. Is Net gonna want to cross and look both ways up against Monsi? It's gonna open up the flank for Blinn, and Net caught the elbow, and it's up next for no T. Couldn't shut down Net either. The multi kills. Net is clutching up when M80 needed to the most. This retake is insane. When Blinn had the time advantage, having so much time for this spike. Now M80, they take care of the stragglers, and they keep themselves within 1.
And that is such a clinic on how to take a fragmented fight like that. With Net communicating that Monsi is tied up over on T, M80 have so much renewed confidence in their ability to take the fight quicker. Only a Viper to deal with? And that orb is already, you know, guaranteed placement-wise? The battlefield is set before the rest of Blinn even gets back. It was a great bait, but you couldn't springboard off of it enough, and those poor isolated fights. Don't get in those with M80.
Right there.
Are we going in? I'm getting OT vibes, especially with this broken buy from Blinn.
Toxins going
Lockdown and Hunter's Fury. We're gonna get some info on where Xander is, or at least how close he is. Xander usually hangs around here, but Nets picking off 2 from mid. How does this happen? That will drop, but this is a very weakened Blinn. And a Thrash that locks down Blinn too. So sad. BCJ has been on fire when it comes to this Gecko in every facet. Leaving Teague now in a 1 versus 3. At least BCJ won't be able to pick this guy up, but Teague's in a horrible spot. At least he has the spike.
But not Snowman cleared away. And Koala Noob finally lets to get that off on the ground.
I will take back what is mine.
And we're tied up at 11 here. It's not a future that we didn't expect, but I don't think we thought M80 were going to suddenly have this much cohesion so quickly. Everything really just clicked upon these retakes, and the rotations, it doesn't even matter if they're late. It doesn't even matter if they're to the wrong site. They're playing together enough for it not to matter.
Yeah, M80 got 5 rounds on the offense, and now they're on a 6-win streak. So rich. An op for Koala Noob. Great info off the knife from Nismo. Knowing Blinn are hitting A, but you don't know if they're just going to take the orb and leave. Xander could open up the flank, depending on how this goes, and of course off the ult Q. While Spaz was distracted, it's a 4v4 with the Reckoning activated there from Muncie. Hoping that M80 are just not going to be on the site. Now plan B is the lockdown too. Not satisfied with the site control that they have. Muncie with 2, M80 missing in action. And with the lockdown fully activated, Xander nowhere to be found in a 1v3. But wait, as Okeanos was extending out of the site, this is doable for Xander. He's on top and he's facing 3 injured members of Blinn. Will tap the spike and gets the attention of the Hunter's Fury. Ton of ults being used this round, and one important round to convert. He ties the KJ util. Blinn, match point.
Impeccable timing after good enough timing for Blinn. So much to work with for that post plant that it matters not that Xander looked goated there. And it came off of such a great timing of the fight, off of another perfectly placed lockdown. That toxic screen, if anything, a mental reset for these Buccaneers. For them to find theirs, isolate for that one moment. And now there's just one more to finalize the match. Get one of your toughest matchups out of the way and end it positive. Blinn is so close.
And for the biggest upset in this Challenger Stage 2 for sure. Blinn are 1 round away. Mikey's going to hold down the flank or also mid along with Spaz, and maybe even trying to get through Kitchen. Where on the other side will be Nismo. M80 getting pushed back too. They don't even have someone actively on the site. They're just relying on Ned and the retake potential of this lockdown.
Which has been very strong. No reason not to throw a member at a fight that doesn't favor you. That's M80's philosophy. They've been willing to play for the 4v4s, the scrappy one-ways this entire time. But that is not enough for M80. This time they want the guarantee. And so they will not let anything go. Early lockdown to force Blinn to reconsider. But Mikey has taken so much space, and a certain somebody with an operator is not prepared for it. Koala Noob gone. Smokes, secondary at least gone. But M80, they'll begin their traversal throughout that A site, shut down the front line in Okeanos, and now it comes to where Blinn is able to enact themselves. Nismo once again stepping out, still kicking for this take back, but Monty will shut it down. Net laying in the wait though for Spaz to trade back, and it is a tough as nails 1v1 that Spaz can't even guarantee spike on, but he will. BCJ using the wingman instead to try to distract. It won't work. Spaz gets the clear, the kill, the win. Blinn, 2 13-11 victories to take them through an insane level of match.
The Upset of the century. The team that rose from relegation, Muncie, kisses them goodbye after a heroic performance just across the board, but especially Muncie with the Harbor. How much this has made a difference on their post plans, on their takes, and even with the meat shield of the wingman, BCJ couldn't win the most important 1v1 of the whole series. What an exciting turn of events, though. 13 and 11 on both Breeze and Icebox, giving M80 their first series loss, of course, of the whole stage, but also on this Icebox map. M80 haven't lost to anyone but TTR and Oxygen. Actually, well, now second loss for M80 this stage. But we got to give them credit. They're still rebuilding. They're maybe adjusting a whole new play style, a whole new way of approaching maps with a new IGL. And mentally, how do you come back from Breeze when you had a 9-3 lead and you choked it?
Of course, the stars very much aligned for this Blinn victory. You have an M80 that is at a fraction of their potential at the moment, and they look great. Their players look as astounding as ever, but what a time to be a Blinn fan, where you get to watch this team take over for the time where M80 may not have it all figured out. It is the perfect litmus to see if this team can stick around, and by God, they can.
Oh, look how happy everyone looks. Oh man, what a confidence booster when Winthrop fell. Blinn rose up to the challenge. 16 first bloods? Are we serious? Like, there are so many first bloods, especially on that defensive Blinn.
Yeah, just immediate shutdowns that M80 started to pick up on later on. They realized that the ways to beat Blinn are the ways that Blinn won. There really is a formula to this kind of thing that M80 was getting nailed down, but at the end of the day, like you said, Blinn's ability to just get in front of the problem a little bit quicker than M80 could outpaced the aim diff we consistently saw from the ladder.
Well, Sierra, we know Gompers was upset about the Winthrop match, but at least there's one collegiate team we can be happy with. What a win for Blinn.
What a freaking win coming out. I want to know how much I get fined if I drop the adult version of that word, because it's so warranted in this case. That is the greatest upset that we've had in Challengers so far. Blinn, the 2-0 victory over M80. Incredible. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. This is the team that came in late after getting promoted, and I don't know. It's a team that in this group here, Jen, I think they really are making us kind of rethink about what it is in Challengers, the power level of these teams. I mean, I'm gobsmacked, frankly.
Yeah, Blinn is a team that makes you think, because how do you lose 2-1 to TSM but 2-0 M80? Like, only the stars align on that one. But M80 almost made the comeback. Like, they had a 6-round win streak post-timeout that M80 were on their way to just blowing this whole game out just based on economy. And then there was just some really important clutches that came out of Blinn. So, fantastic series to watch from both sides.
It really, really was. And hey, you'll be able to make your dinner plans then. So it was honestly really, really worked out for you there, Jen. But hey, we have Monty on the line. So the opportunity to talk to Blinn Esports now. And I have to kick it off with like the most sincerest of congratulations. This was
Thank you.
A really fun match to watch. And obviously for Blinn Esports, as the collegiate team that just got promoted into this league, this is an incredible win. Like, how are you feeling after that? What's the team saying after that? What's the celebration like after that?
I mean, we're definitely excited, you know, coming into Challengers and having to play all these teams, coming in with like the pressure that we want to perform, right? So definitely this first win means a lot to us, because the amount of effort we've put together as a team and stuff like that. We go through ups and downs together, and this means a lot to us.
I mean, this is a match too. We've gotten to see Blinn Esports through Challengers bring these matches closer and closer, and the opponents you've been going up against are quite formidable. And now M80 has been in talks of one of the top teams that we have here, and you just 2-0'd them. Like, I want to know your honest opinion when you thought to this match. Did you think that this is one that was going to be going to the third map? Like, how did it play out differently in comparison to what you prepped for going into it?
I think how it played differently, I guess, is maybe we take every opponent with like respect. I guess the the weird thing about us is that I think we can beat everyone, but I also think we can lose to a lot of these teams, which is what we have to prep for, because we have to find our consistency. We have, again, we have very good players. We have very good coaching staff, good like staff in general. So like we have the setup for it, right? It really comes down to us players, because we do lose our groove sometimes in terms of like patience or like staying calm and stuff like that. So that's just something that we have to keep learning as we go and stuff like that. But for this match specifically, it's not that we were necessarily like, well, we're never going to be scared of our opponents, but it's just we know every game is going to be tough matches. Like every game, like I said, we can lose or we can win. That's just our identity so far, is that we can beat everyone, but we can also lose to anybody, and that's just what we have to grind for.
It's a healthy mindset to come into this with, and you're talking about the fact you can beat anyone or lose to anyone. Do you think that maybe the teams looking at Blinn Esports up until this point have maybe disrespected the group because this has been a collegiate team? Do you think like this result and how the team's been performing might start to change that tune a little bit?
It depends, because like I think people that we practice against, like, they definitely respect us. I don't think, like, especially because of this year, like college kind of got an upgrade and stuff like that. Like, I don't think people look at colleges as like a weak team anymore. We're just like, if we're in challenges, we kind of deserve it, right? It doesn't mean that we're a college team. It's like we're actually here as a team. Like, I don't think the college term really applies to like us and Winthrop. But again, like us and Winthrop lose to the college team, so like, you know, like it is what it is. But that's just how it is.
I mean, that just leads into my next question then. You're talking about how these college teams, I mean, shouldn't even just be referred to as that, because they are real contenders out here. And Blinn Esports, you have so much experience playing now because you're in these scenes. You're just playing at CVAL. Do you think that's actually a really big help for this team to continuously get these reps that maybe some of these other teams that are competing just don't quite get the opportunity for?
I'll be blunt. For us personally, I don't think it has been helping us, because like we think we're here, right? We're playing against teams that are like typically here, and then when you play against like college teams, you're playing a little bit here. So then what happens to us is that we bring our level down to here, and that really hurts our confidence. Yes, we do bounce back, but it does hurt. Like, you know, like again, we're beating M80, but then we're also losing to these other teams. So again, it just comes down to like experience, like learning how to like settle down within the rounds and stuff like that. So like I said, like I mentioned before, like we can beat a lot of teams, but we can also lose to a lot of them. That's just how it is for us, unfortunately. That's what we have to keep working on.
It is like that right, sometimes, but hey, the here team just beat the here team, as you put it, for today, and that is definitely cause for celebration. Really excited to see more from Blinn Esports in the future. Monty, thank you so much for chatting. Have a good rest of your night, okay?
Thank you as well. Have a great day.
Thank you. Now, with that being said, it's time to bring back our analysts to be closing out the show. I mean, Jen, I loved how Monty was talking about like we can lose to anyone, we can beat anyone. And I think, too, going on forward, that mentality is already starting to prove that, hey, it's a pretty good one. I mean, yes, they took that 1-2 loss to TSM, as you said, but this 2-0 victory over M80, I mean, even if M80 are going under a roster change, I don't want to take that away from Blinn Esports, because I think this was a fantastic victory.
Yeah, Blinn really did well. They cooked on the Harbor comp. I'm going to have to tell Vance Silly about it, because he's a known Harbor hater. And I'll have to show him this one. I don't think he'll want to watch that one, though, with how unexpected this whole series went. And I loved this interview, because Blinn have to face the best to be the best. And when you're facing collegiate, maybe they're not at the level that Challengers presents. And now that Blinn are getting more experience against the higher levels of competition, they're also improving. The fact that they 2-0'd M80, yeah, it's great, but can they do that next week? And now kind of them admitting how inconsistent they are in the interview makes me not scared to predict them after how impressed I was today, but I'll still believe in them.
They're staying humble, all right? And you know what? I respect that. You take the win, you cannot get on a high horse, because you'll just get knocked down and it's going to hurt twice as hard. And Tenric, now talking about M80, I mean, these were close matches. It was a 13-11 scorelines for both. And it is a team that bringing in net has to do a little bit development. I mean, it is a team that we know that there's a lot of potential from. So I think going on to next week, that's what I'm going to be looking towards.
Certainly, it's a team that is so much greater than the sum of its parts, but it speaks to a wider benchmark for this split of challengers. It's the fact that, like Nismo said, you know, any team can beat any team, circumstances be damned, and I can't wait to see what it brings to the top of that leaderboard, who we're going to end up bringing to Ascension, because I can't say it might be anybody, but the crowd is getting a lot wider.
It almost could be anyone at this point. It's absolutely incredible. We still have another day of challengers ahead of us too. So looking at the schedule and the matches that we've had so far, it has been a very 2-0-y type of week out here. I'm not gonna lie, and maybe not in all the ways that people expected, but it has been a lot of fun. Tomorrow, Fluffy Aimers take on SAT Esports. Then we'll end off with our mid-season cup champions, Oxygen, going up against TSM. Jen, what are you looking forward to most for tomorrow?
The Fluffy Aimers match, to be honest, they've kind of gone back and forth with quite a few teams. Oxygen looked pretty untouchable, especially with their win over M80. TSM, yeah, they went 2-1 against Blinn and won, but that's not a convincing win. So where can we set the threshold for TSM? Where is their peak at? We'll start to get glimpses of that in this match, especially against Oxygen.
It'll be a really, really exciting day for sure. And I already can't wait. I went through a whole bag of popcorn watching today's matches. I'm going to go have to buy a second one for tomorrow, but that's unfortunately it for today. Teneric as well, I hope you had fun. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, you know, happy to jump in. It's always an honor to get involved, and great to see these teams jump in.
It has been such a fun day, and thank you, Jen, for crushing it as always. Thanks, production, for being awesome, and thank you, everyone at home, for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow for day 3 here at VALORANT Challengers, but until then, have a good night.
Where is everyone hiding? One enemy remaining. One enemy remaining.
My way.
Back off.
One enemy remaining.
Eyes down.
30 seconds left. One enemy remaining. Spike planted. One enemy remaining.
Night, night.
Yikes. One enemy remaining.
Smell the death.